Hey, let's work together to import new records in my system. To start, go to your settings and select the Tools tab to open the Import section. Here you can click Import to begin the process. By clicking the Upload File button, you'll open your computer's files and can select the one you'd like to upload. Before we continue, I'd like to go over how to set up your file. Let's jump to my prepared file, which is a list of new leads that I'd like to import into my system so my sales reps can reach out to them. I'm currently working on Google Sheets, but you can work on any spreadsheet editor. First, let's look over my data. Each column represents a field, while each row represents a record. For example, the first column shows each account's name, while the second shows the status they're in. As we're working with leads, all of these account statuses are set to new. The rest of each account's details are individual and will be filled in for each account according to their row. By setting your column names to the field names used in your system, your columns will automatically match with your system fields, which we'll learn more about soon. I'm using this file to set the account owner lookup field, as well as both the lead source and the account type picklist fields. As these types of fields have specific predefined values in the system, be sure that the values you write in your file exactly match the values in your system. For example, let's say the options in your system for the account type field are business account and private account. If you instead import a file with the value private without the word account after it, this field will be left blank for the relevant record and not be set to the private account value. For this reason, the best practice is to copy the values directly from your system and paste them into your file to ensure they exactly match. Now, let's make sure the file itself is using the correct formatting. First, make sure you're only working with one sheet in your file. Let's delete the New Leads Tuesday sheet, as it's currently empty anyway, and my import will fail if I try to upload this file with multiple sheets. Next, it's important that there aren't empty rows between data. If the system reads 5 empty rows, it will stop reading the file. Let's move the 2 accounts which are at the end of my file up so that there aren't any gaps. It's also important that all the data in the file is formatted as text. To do this, let's select the entire sheet and then, under the Format option, let's scroll over Number and then click on Plain Text. Finally, it's important to make sure there are no filters being applied to your file. Select your entire spreadsheet and then go to the Data tab and click Remove Filter. This file is now ready to be imported. Let's download it as either an Excel or a CSV file, and then go back to our system. Now that our file is ready, let's click the Upload File button and select our newly downloaded file. We can now click Next and select our data type. This is the system object which the new records will be imported into. In our case, we're uploading new accounts, so let's select the account object and click Next. We can now choose if we want to activate special features. This will set if the automations, track changes, follow, and sync features will be applied to our new records. For example, I have an automation which sends out a welcome email to all my new accounts. Because we will be creating new accounts, checking this box will ensure that this email is sent, while leaving it unchecked means that this email will not be sent. In my case, let's check this box so that my email automation will run, as well as any other automations and features. We can now click the Import New Records button, as we'd like to create new records. If you'd instead like to update existing records, you can use the Update option, which will be explained in detail another time. We can now select which fields we'd like to set for our new records. As we mentioned earlier, each of the columns in our file represents a specific field. In the table, we can set which field each column represents. The values of each column header are displayed in the column on the left. On the right are drop-down lists of all the system fields which you can import data into. Select the relevant field for each column. You'll notice that most of my fields are already filled in. This is because the name of the column header exactly matched one of my system fields. For example, the account name column header exactly matches my account name field. You can, of course, choose a different field for this column, such as instead importing this column into the first name field. Each field can only be selected once, so that if we now set the first name field under a different column, we'll see that it's removed from our account name column. In this way, each field can receive one value. You can also choose not to set a field for specific columns. This will ensure that the data from these columns will not be imported. For example, the account numbers used in my spreadsheet aren't accurate, so let's set this column to blank. Now these values won't be imported. In this way, you can make sure to only import relevant data and ignore any irrelevant columns. It's important to set up this chart properly so that all your data is imported into the correct fields in your system. Before continuing, let's go over 2 last steps. First, you may have noticed the checkbox above the Matching Fields chart. This is automatically checked and sets whether your spreadsheet has headers in the first row. You can easily check this by looking at the values within the file titles column, which is the first row of data. If this is set to names or identifiers, leave this box checked. If this instead shows actual data you'd like to import, be sure to uncheck this box. Finally, under the chart, you'll find the Select Account Owner option. The owner field is a required field for every system record, and this field ensures that an owner will be set for all your records. Even if you set the owner field in the chart above, just like we did with the account owner field, it's still important to always fill out this additional step. This is a fallback which ensures that you'll always have an owner set for all your new records. As I'm importing new leads, I'll select my sales manager as the default owner. We can now import our new records by clicking Import. The import process will begin immediately and will be brought back to our import page. Here we can use the log to check on the status of our import and on how many records were processed. By refreshing our page, we'll see that our import is finished and the revert option has appeared. This option can be used within the first 24 hours of importing new records in order to delete all the newly imported records. You may want to do this if you've realized you forgot to add a column or set a specific field for your new records. It's important to note that this option is not available when updating existing records. Let's jump over to our Accounts object and check out the new view. Here we can see all our newly added account records with all their newly set fields. We imported into the Accounts object, but you can of course import into any object, such as your contacts, deals, and more. Using this process, you can quickly and easily import new records into your system.